co-found is what this morning has been. I'm going to take a minute out of our 20-minute speaking slot here to give my deepest gratitude to Ideagen. And George, don't hide behind the sign. Please step forward. Cloudwerx is proud to be here. This is our first time as Cloudwerx at Ideagen. There's some old faces. I've been around here for a little bit, but thank you so much for having us. I want to highlight our founder and CEO, Jason Geis, Cloudwerx, and CRO and co-founder, Betsy Reed, our fierce leader. And I have to say, when it comes to running the P&L, she's fierce. When it comes to managing people, she's nothing but empathetic. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Betsy for an awesome power talk. Betsy, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Great job. The content you've seen today. First and foremost, again, want to echo Siddhan's gratitude for including us. This is our first Ideagen. It will not be the last. And I heard there's one in Greece. And I think we need to sign on for maybe a executive level retreat there. But yes, my name is Betsy Reed. I'm the co-founder and chief revenue officer of Cloudwerx. And thanks to George, it's kind of hard now to, you spoiled my secret. We did just win Partner of the Year for Google Cloud, so out of 4,500 partners. We just won that award in under 3 years in business. Super, super proud of that. To kick us off, though, I'm going to tell you a little story and take you on a journey back in time. 30 years back, to be exact, and this was the fall of 1993. And in the fall of 1993, I was 7 years old. I was in first grade, and I was in Miss Dunn's class. And if any of you, I know we have some Pacific Northwesterners out there. If you know anything about the Pacific Northwest, it rains about 10 months out of the year. But in October, it was still nice. So I had the privilege of still playing out at recess, which, by the way, was my favorite period of the day. At that time of year, soccer was the sport we played when we went out to recess, which was my favorite sport and one that I really excelled in. So one particular day, I ran outside. I stood in the lineup for the draft pick, and I'm like, yes, this is my jam. This is where I feel most confident. And that day, there was a new boy. He was in class. He was, a cool guy. He was a leader among the peers, and he had volunteered to be captain that day. So I'm standing there, I'm waiting to be called, and usually I was picked pretty early in the draft, and he pointed at me. I'm like, sweet, he gets it. He's new, but he knows I'm good. And as I ran over to stand up next to him, he looked at me and he said, oh no, I wasn't picking you for my team. I was pointing at you to let you know that girls aren't allowed to play soccer with the boys. I was pretty crushed, as you can imagine. I mean, look at me. I'm so pumped. And I thought, I'm good. Like, I can play. I'm better than most of you out here. This is confusing. I'm physically capable. I'm not injured in any way. And more than that, I loved it. I loved it so much. How could he be so out of touch? So as soon as, this thought process went through my mind, the bell rang, and we had to go back in. So that day, instead of playing soccer, I instead experienced something much more significant, which was my first and one of my most formative, uncomfortable moments. So back in the classroom, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I was frustrated we didn't get to play, number one. And number two, I was sick to my stomach thinking about how flawed this was. So at that time, I had a couple of choices. I could stay silent, find something else to do at recess, and I could move on. Or I could do something about it. I'm going to let you guys guess what choice I made. After school was dismissed, I went up to my teacher, Miss Dunn's desk, and I asked if the next day before we got started, if I might have the opportunity to share a few words with my class. She was a little confused, I'm sure. I'm this precocious 7-year-old volunteering to speak in front of 30 of my peers. But as confused as she was, she agreed, and she didn't even ask me why. That night, I went home to prepare my talking points. Why Girls Should Be Allowed to Play Soccer Too by Betsy Reed was on my notebook. I think my mom still has this, by the way. Among my talking points were, we have legs to run fast, we have feet to kick the ball, we have brains to outsmart our opponents, And given those facts, I didn't see a difference between boys and girls when it came to sports, especially soccer. The next day, as I prepared to give my speech and Miss Dunn trued up on her word and gave me the floor, I was nervous. As prepared and passionate as I was about this topic, I was freaked out. What if they laugh at me? I mean, these are first graders. What if they talk behind my back? What if they call me names? And what if, worse than anything, after all this, I don't get to play? At that moment, I decided that the temporary discomfort of making that speech was nothing compared to the lingering nag of regret if I didn't. So up I went. I don't really recall much of a standing ovation after I was done, but I do believe I made some of those little minds think. I sat back down. I was a little relieved, as you can imagine, and the speech was done, but I still was a little bit anxious about the ultimate judgment time, which for me was going back out to play at recess. So that day, the bell rang, I ran outside, and instead of lining up, I volunteered to be captain. And I took a lot of care to pick my team. I even picked cool guy first. He was good. I wanted to win. And that day, I played with more grit and determination than I ever had before. And slowly, over the course of that year, something else happened. One by one, I was joined on the field by other girls who liked to play too. I asked them, why haven't you played before? Why didn't you ever come out? They said they were scared. They were scared they'd be made fun of or they wouldn't be accepted into the boys' club. That my speech made them feel more comfortable. It was then that I realized the power in discomfort. So today, we're going to go on a little bit of a quest to dissect discomfort. Why does it exist in the first place? What evidence is there to show it's worth embracing? And given all of that, how can we leverage it and harness its power to build ourselves as better human beings, create better leaders, build better teams, and also support us in creating a better world? So relax, or don't, and join me as we get a little uncomfortable. So the human body is a complex machine, as a testament to many of the speeches here today. I feel like I've learned so much already. And it's made up of hundreds and hundreds of systems that are designed to keep us safe. One of those systems is responsible for the feeling of discomfort in our bodies. And it comes in 3 biological forms: physical, mental, and emotional. Of the 3, physical is probably the most relatable, as we all have pain receptors in our body that alert us when we're in danger of physical harm. You put your hand near a hot stove, the heat receptors notice the heat, alert us to pull it away. If they didn't exist at all, we wouldn't know to take our hand from the stove until it was red and blistered. The damage already done. This is an important system in our body. The second is mental discomfort, and while there's a wide magnitude of severity that comes from this discomfort, I'm going to focus on 2 that are the most common that we probably experience on a weekly, if not daily basis, and that's cognitive dissonance and mental fatigue. Cognitive dissonance, anybody know what that is? You don't have to say it out loud. Okay. Is when our thoughts and beliefs do not align with our actions. Okay? We have evolved to feel this situation as painful. Why? So it prompts us to course correct, to gain internal alignment. Think about the last time you committed to either starting or stopping a behavior or a hobby or something. What happened when you went back on that commitment? It probably felt bad. It feels bad. And we've evolved to notice this as a perception so that we can be triggered to make clear decisions and stick with them in the future. It's very important. In addition, there's also mental fatigue. So this is in place so we shift tasks. Our mind can only focus on one task or activity for a certain amount of time. We need that breathing room so we can be productive, so we can be creative, so we can stay motivated. We can think outside of the box. This is critical. On the same vein, in this world of instant gratification and digital dopamine hits, we're constantly distracted. So you need to focus on when you are, in that task, give it your full attention. It's your superpower. The third form is emotional discomfort. Think about your most recent, Think about your most recent positive experience. What feelings came up for you during or after? Happiness, love, excitement, enjoyment? How about negative? What arose in your body? Shame, sadness, pain? Emotions are what galvanize experiences into our subconscious and conscious minds. They allow us to draw from those associations and hopefully recreate the good experiences in the future and then prevent or avoid the negative ones. That's why they're there. So with all of these different systems working, the danger comes when we lose touch with reality. So when is discomfort and the feeling of it a true threat, something we should pay attention to? And when is it an opportunity to build strength and resiliency? The opportunity lies here to learn to harness this power and use it for good, safely, with maximum development and minimum damage. So the value of discomfort, however, goes far beyond just our key biological needs that we've developed in evolution. It also creates better people, and then as a result, there's a cascade effect. A better person can be a better leader. We know great leaders are what build great teams. And that collective vulnerability drives innovation, which ultimately leads to a better world. So discomfort creates vulnerability. When you're uncomfortable, you're vulnerable, right? You're scared, you're nervous, you're anxious, whatever it is. You're out of your comfort zone. Vulnerability creates connection. When was the last time you had a really vulnerable conversation with somebody? If they responded well and didn't reject you, you probably felt more connected to them. When you're connected, you feel safe. And when you feel safe, you have the freedom to innovate. You have some of those needs covered. So discomfort creates the opportunity in the environment for innovation. It's time to shift the paradigm between avoiding discomfort and the risk of failure to embracing it. Let's bring it on, right? And really take that as a personal rallying cry. Founder of North Star Leadership Institute and also my personal business coach, Annie Yach, has a saying, you're either winning or you're learning. There's no such thing as failure. This is something we should all take to heart. As a leader, when you can dive into the deep end and show your bravery, go first. Be scared and do it anyway. It creates goodwill for your team, and they'll be willing to go to battle for you. I promise. So I was listening to a Tony Robbins seminar a couple years ago, and there was a study that was done that he was kind of giving the summary on, and it focused on the difference between optimists and pessimists and what are some surprising findings. And not surprisingly, optimists were said to win more often. So you can maybe think, okay, was it their positive energy? Was it their vibe? Was it their can-do attitude? And the answer is no. Those things help, right? And they're fun to be around. It was not the main distinguishing factor at all. They weren't smarter, they were not more capable, and they were not more prepared. In fact, when surveyed, and I feel this, when surveyed, they actually said they felt quite unprepared in most of their endeavors. So it wasn't that. So what's the secret sauce? What's their recipe for success? What has them win more over pessimists? The main difference is that optimists tried more. They had more at-bats. While pessimists sat on the sidelines, thinking about why they shouldn't do something, why they can't, stuck in a limiting belief pattern, the optimists just went for it. And if you, in any way, subscribe to Annie's motto of win or learn, you can see why with every experience, whether they won or they lost, they were creating the opportunity for growth and to learn, and the result of that is a force multiplier. Optimists learned how to harness the power of discomfort. The Navy SEALs have long been studied as they're one of the most elite teams to ever exist. What's their secret? In the book, How Leadership Actually Works, that's about the training, it's an amazing book if you guys want it, and we have our leadership team reading it right now, but it's about the Navy SEALs training principles. One of the critical components of the Navy SEALs is their ability to self-regulate. Does that sound familiar? It's their ability to embrace discomfort, to perform in uncomfortable situations. And while many folks that join the Navy SEALs have an innate ability or kind of a born ability to be uncomfortable and do it anyway, this is reinforced through grueling training, through commitment to these disciplines, and through execution in real life. When you can lead by example with vulnerability and build an elite team that does the same, you create a deep connection. You create an environment and a team that will push further, that will try harder, that will embrace failure. They'll lift each other up. And you'll be victorious, whether you're winning or you're losing or you're learning. And that's the power of discomfort for teams. So I've shared a little bit about how discomfort can make you a better person, selfishly, how it can make you a better leader and build elite teams. But I'd also like to share with you why it can create a better world. So as co-founder of Cloudwerx, we get to work with some of the most innovative technology companies in the world, many of which have a birthplace in Silicon Valley. The Valley for 40 years has served as one of the biggest hubs of tech innovation. It has given birth to such tech giants as Google, our favorite, Apple, Uber, Facebook, thousands more. Many of you here today are associated with or a part of directly the United Nations, formed in 1945 with a mission to maintain international peace and security. And while before this opportunity I've had little involvement with the United Nations, that will change. It took me no time at all to notice three surprising similarities between the UN and the Valley. First, they're extremely diverse. Silicon Valley, while we could still do some work, but in Silicon Valley, only 4% of the residents are native Californians, meaning 96% of folks come from elsewhere. The United Nations, a little bit of a given, but 193 member states, extremely diverse. Second, they both set out to solve the world's most complex problems. The Valley using technological innovation, and the UN using and aligning around global causes. And last, which is my favorite, is they're organizationally flat. If you have a dream, a mission, a purpose, something you want to do that you're passionate about, you can do it. And my guess is you'll be supported in most cases. So what does all of this have to do with discomfort? Both the Valley and the UN have found a way to not only encourage, but to embrace and support the exchange of diverse thought and idea among incredibly high stakes. This is challenging. This is uncomfortable. Gaining alignment around 17, I'm sorry, is it 17? Okay, thank you. 17 causes globally, probably some uncomfortable conversations. Similarly, in innovation and development in the Valley, these are uncomfortable situations. However, the fact that the leaders and the teams commit to doing the work anyway because it matters creates a level of connection and a shared language across these very diverse groups that allow us to innovate. Innovate through discomfort and come up with solutions that require it, right? It's important. So, what are these, are these optimists and these Navy SEALs and diplomats and Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, are they just born this way? They just have it in them? And if so, are those of us who weren't born with the discomfort gene, are we kind of relegated to this small and safe life? Or is discomfort a muscle you could build? Is this a skill you can learn, like learn and throw a baseball or a new programming language? Is this something that can be reinforced through proper training, discipline, and repetition? Spoiler alert, you can do it. You can work on this. You can work on this because our brains are literally wired to do this, and they use neural pathways in the conscious and subconscious mind to do so. The conscious mind is responsible for memory, reason, and planning, and the subconscious mind kicks into gear to alert the conscious mind to take action or not. Example, you want to quit smoking. You made a commitment to do so. You know it's terrible for you. Now, I know it's one of the lifestyle changes you can make if you want to avoid dementia and Alzheimer's in the future. So, quit smoking. A day in, you're feeling a craving. You're feeling uncomfortable. Both the conscious and subconscious mind are going to kick into gear to help you as you grapple with this decision. The conscious mind judges it. Well, I don't think this is a good idea, and here's why. And the subconscious mind goes into, where's the conflict? It notices the conflict, the commitment to quit versus the desire to smoke, and it works to correct this deviation and modify your behavior. It's amazing. This is what our brains do, like not opening the pack. These neural pathways and the strength between their connections are critical if you want to build the muscle of discomfort. On the flip side, your brain, we'll just leave it there. On the flip side, your brain can also be wired or rewired or reinforced for comfort and pleasure seeking, going towards the familiar and known. This is dangerous. Why? These are the behaviors that are going to keep you small and stuck. So every time you overcome that desire to go against what you committed to do and or avoided discomfort, you're actually reinforcing those toxic pathways. But the good news is there are potent ways that today, no matter what you're doing, in any task or situation, you can build your discomfort muscle in all of the categories: physical, mental, and emotional. To build your physical discomfort, you can engage in safe yet challenging physical pursuits: intense exercise, cold plunges, saunas, yoga. These are all potent ways you can start building this muscle and those connections today. You can build your mental discomfort muscle by taking care and taking time to give the world your superpower, which is your attention and your presence. Silence your phone for 20 or 30 minutes during the day. The world will survive, I promise. Limit social media. Take care with your prioritization of tasks and activities that you're engaged with. Your time and your attention are your superpowers. Use them wisely. Also, reflect. Think about how your beliefs and how your thoughts are aligning with your actions on a day-to-day basis. It's important. You can work on your emotional muscles by doing things like meditation, talk therapy, counseling, identifying your patterns. What are your past experiences? What are your triggers? What that allows you to do is identify ways you can be more proactive in the future, be conscious about your reactions and decisions, not just shoot from the hip. This is also very, very important. So discomfort is just that, it's uncomfortable, right? We don't like it. I think that word even maybe gives people the heebie-jeebies. However, it is critical to our growth and development as people, as leaders, and as change makers. My hope is that in this small time that I have with you today, that you gained some sort of an appreciation for the value of discomfort in your life. And my ask is this. So take a little bit of time today to think about how you could work on your discomfort muscle. How is it today? Could it use a little bit of work? Think of one thing you could do between now and when you go home, where you could start to strengthen those connections. And if you do that, what kind of impact could that have on you as a person, on your team? And if we all do that, what is the collective result that we could achieve? One thing I know for sure is that 30 years and thousands of uncomfortable situations later, I am proof of a life lived in the discomfort zone. It has not always been an easy path. However, it has been a beautiful one. I want to share one of my favorite quotes by the Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh, which is, "Normality is a paved road. It's a comfortable walk, but no flowers grow there." My advice, take the unpaved road, smell the flowers, and get uncomfortable. Thank you.